For the countries you have mentioned, that was a solution they thought was viable to correct the ills of the prior administrations, and they went ahead and did it. I cannot judge in either way to say, oh, that was wrong. No, I do not live there to say, this was wrong because you get what I mean, right? I applaud the audacity, right? The boldness, the confidence, to find a solution to their current problems. Now, was it the right solution? That's for them to decide, right? And if under the military administration they're thriving better than they were under democratic or prior administrations, who am I to say anything against it? So, in other words, kudos to people who found solutions to their problems.
That's quite interesting. And then the solutions to Nigeria's problems is changing the government. To who or for who? Who is going to take over? Who will be the right person? Because everybody has a plan, everybody has a vision. However, is the implementation that we've seen, come up short. So what could happen? Is it a miracle that could create a change in the country?
Okay, so Nigeria is a very peculiar place, I would say. I would say, and I say that because, we have a people who, as much as we say we do not trust our institutions, I think sometimes we overtrust them, right? After the elections, we were hoping the judiciary would do what was right according to the people, right? Or at least, be fair in their in their duties. That did not happen. Now, do I think a military coup is what Nigeria needs? No. We've been there before, right? We need the right leaders, right? There's a good amount of Nigerians in diaspora. There are many others who are looking to Japa as well. I think that there are ways that we could have impact. There are ways that we could work with what we have right now, to start to correct some of the ills in the country. But also, there is a level of responsibility on our people to speak up about their conditions. There is absolutely no reason why someone you voted for into Congress or into power should, embezzle funds necessary for the upkeep and for the development of our people. And instead of speaking up against it, people are looking for the handouts they can get from it, right? That's part of the problem. If we understand the power we have as the masses, how do you recall politicians who are not effective, right? There are so many things that we could do that we're not doing, right, as yet, before you start to talk about whatever violent anything. I'm not a huge proponent of, violence as a way to do stuff. So leveraging some of the constitutional rights that we have, and organizing in ways that can allow us to do that effectively is important. And then some people would say, well, if you want to go that route, you still have the obstacle called the judiciary, who can still turn things upside down. It takes a while, but little by little, you do start to see progress.
So you believe in strengthening the
accountability is important. That's what I would say. Sorry?
You believe in strengthening the systems. So, there could be fairness, accountability, and all of that. But for you, when you were 35, you had a vision, you had a strategy, you had a plan and everything. I can't let you go without asking you this question. How much did it cost you when it comes to, the money you spent in your campaign and the whole process of becoming president? how much did it cost you? Because I'm sure there are a number of young people who are planning to also create, a diasporan party so they could come in the next election to bring the solutions to Nigeria. Can you give us that little piece of information?
So the truth is 2019 is not 2023. 2027 will not be 2023, and so on and so forth. So saying how much it costs me is not going to help anybody, right? As opposed to saying what's important in how to prepare for that, right? Organizing is important, having the right ideology that can pull people into your vision, that are willing to support, right? So I probably spend the least amount of money, of all the candidates in that election, partly because we had people who were spending their own money to do things, right? We had young people who were organizing, like in the North, for instance. We had a group of young people in Kano who pulled other young leaders from 11 northern states to come meet with me in Kano. And they spent their own money galvanizing and campaigning in their states, right? There were people who printed books, who printed posters, who printed banners, of their own accord, right? So it's not about how much it costs. It's, do you have the right vision? Do you have the right people? And how are you able to communicate that vision so that it brings other people on board?
Okay. So
Of
and with
course,
your
getting the right people,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
also means finding the right people who can help you fundraise,
Okay.
and manage, the financial expenses of running a credible campaign. So yeah.
Okay. So the team is important. And with your experience, how can anyone win an election in Africa with the current systems in place?
Okay, so I think one of the lessons we learned, right, part of um, my 2019 experience, or at least one of the strategies we had going in, was let's try to avoid, the godfatherism, right? In fact, I remember my very first interview in Nigeria when I returned. It was on a show called Your View. And the ladies asked me, they're like, who's your godfather? And, coming with the American mentality, I'm like, the Okada man on the street with his 100 naira. And they laughed. They fell out and laughed. By the end of the election, we definitely understood the importance of, godfatherism or sponsors, right? But one of the things we came out of that understanding is making sure that you have people who are sold into your vision, right, of moving the country forward, not people who loan you money such that when you get there, you become indebted to them. And that repeats a cycle of embezzlement, that affects the welfare of the people, right? So there were four things I believe we came up with. I can quickly summarize that. Security is important. Of course, finances is important. Media is important, both local and international. And of course, having this right sponsors, right? The godfathers. Now, the fifth one is having your insiders in the Electoral Commission, because we're still talking about Nigeria here, right? Now, of those five things, your responsibility as a candidate is media. You should be able to communicate your vision, both locally and internationally, right? To woo people, to come along with you. You should be able to convince your sponsors, godfathers, or whatever you call them, to buy into your vision, right? And give them a role in that administration, a role that enhances the welfare of the people, not the other way. I don't want to go into much detail because it would just take us off. Now, when it comes to security apparatus, when it comes to INEC, those are now where you need your godfathers who have better access into these institutions, to take the lead, right? In making sure that you have the right support system within those institutions for your candidacy. Of course, we can break these even further down to how it could be effective. But for now, those 4 or 5 areas are extremely important. And of
That's
course,
quite
you need capital,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
facilitate most of those.
Hmm. So what do you hope to see for Nigeria in the next, let's say, 15 years?
50 or 15?
1 5.
1 5. Um, as much as, we're not happy about, the current state of affairs, we're hoping that at some point, our leaders, we're hoping, will start to understand the importance of prioritizing the lives and the welfare of the people, right? Nigeria is the largest Black nation in the world. There is absolutely no reason why we cannot be a superpower. Nigerians leave Nigeria and they excel everywhere else. In fact, in the US, Nigerians are still the most educated, I think, ethnic group when you break it down that way, right? So it's not that we are incapable of being excellent, of leading. We're not. We just don't have people who understand the importance of building a nation for the benefit of the nation and the continent. Um,
Okay.
so even if we believe that the presidency right now does not see that, whether they have a plan or not, I don't know. I'm hoping that the people that they start to surround themselves with, from the ministers or the appointed, that there are some people with good intentions who understand the importance of posterity and will leverage their positions to start to do good. We need that. I'm hoping that our governors, or those around them, will start to see the importance of empowering their states and their people to do good, right? I'm hoping that our elected officials, whether senators or reps, will start to see the importance of empowering their communities and start to do that, right? So that even if as a whole we don't see that change happen immediately, we can start to see pockets of things happening that become bright spots that others can now emulate if they don't have the ability to come up with it themselves. That's my hope. So blindly hoping that in another 15 years, Nigeria will be definitely better than we are or where we are today.
Hmm.
There's, in healthcare, infrastructure, in education, just name it, tourism, just name it. Like I always talk about the fact that we have schools in the United States. You look at Stanford, you look at Harvard, some of the Ivy League schools, whose endowments are more than our budget. And you're talking about schools that have, what, 3, 4, 5,000, maybe 20, even if it's 40,000 people, our students, right? With an endowment that is almost equivalent or larger than the budget of a nation of over 200 million people. South Africa's population is just about a quarter of ours. Yeah, they generate way more electricity than we do, right? So it's not like things cannot be done. There are things that can be done. There are things that can be fixed to uplift the everyday person, citizen. But you just need the right people in the right strategic spots to start to do work.
Okay. Should we expect a comeback for Chike Ukaegbu?
Um, that's a great question, right? Off the top of my head, I can say yes. However, what trumps that yes is as long as there are credible people who have shared visions, shared passion, shared empathy, I'm happy to support the right people or the right person. It doesn't have to be Chike. It could be Chike, but it doesn't have to be Chike. I am all about how do we move our country, our people, our continent forward.